and welcome. It is Hardware Talk NZ, and today we have a very, very special show for you today. We've got Hardware Diversity Discussion, episode 25. It was actually going to be episode 26, but that was postponed from last weekend until this weekend, so next week's show will be filmed this week. Kind of odd. Anyway, got some very interesting topics to talk about today. We've got something a little bit different with our guest, and looking forward to sort of having a little bit of a more in-depth discussion about who we are as people and what we do sort of behind the camera and all that sort of stuff, because that's important too. And I know that's, not something I would normally discuss, but hey, it's, here to sort of just cover all aspects of us as sort of tech nerds and what we are as actual marshmallow. Thank you very much. Before we get going as well, I will not be paying too much attention to chat and alerts and all that stuff. If there is anything insightful to sort of talk about, and if like there's raids, subs or follows or anything like that, I will break up discussion. But in terms of keeping the conversation concise and sort of as on topic as we can, we will sort of leave that till the end. So yeah, if you are wanting to stick around and hang about and sort of prepare some questions and things for our guest and myself towards the end, then that's all cool. But otherwise, I suppose sort of without further ado, we should get going. So please, with a very warm welcome, a great community support and done a lot for her community and also Twitch as a whole. Amazing person, really great streamer, and does a lot for who we are. So I do a podcast stream, and it's hard to keep an eye on chat. Absolutely, yes, yes, it is. It is very much so. Sort of wanting to sort of reduce the distraction by the alerts and all that sort of stuff. So that will be sort of in the background until a bit later on. But appreciate the sentiment. Thank you very much. So yeah, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to BlondeChipmunk live scene. Hello. I'll just unmute you. Sorry about the pro streamer. There we go.
Hello.
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 Hello. So yeah, I guess first things first, on the discussion document. So I guess like a little bit about your journey, really. Sort of what you were doing, what sort of inspired you, and just a bit about like who what sort of person you are, really. Yeah. What
yeah.
do you do?
No.
Yeah.
So I started off streaming as a console-only gamer. I didn't really take it too seriously. I watched like all the big streamers. I watched mainly Ninja and Loserfruit. They were the main two streamers I watched when I started off. And I used to be absolutely obsessed with Fortnite, so I didn't really think there was too much to streaming back then. And I just kind of streamed on my console once a month, and from time to time I would have a few people come by, but I never really put much effort into it. And I had a bit of I had like a 2-year break, and then mentally I was like, you know what, with lockdown and everything like that, I want to do something. I want to do something with it, and I started doing something with it. I really went out my way, focusing on upping my socials game, changing up my content loads, changing up my overlays and stuff like that, changing everything. And the journey's been really good so far. So it's exciting to see what this year has.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's just come past your 1-year anniversary, sort of as in your current state of affairs, and the grind looks tough. Let's be honest with that, and
oh yeah,
and it's like it's sort of and you're doing incredibly well, with everything that's going on outside of your life here, and what sort of how organised things are or appear to be anyway, and I suppose we'll get on to that as a little bit of a topic. Either do you want to talk about that now or later on? It's completely in your jurisdiction.
Happy to talk about it now. If so, happy to talk about it now.
And it can be certainly something that I guess sort of takes its toll, and you got to be honest with yourself and the intentions and what you have to deal with. Certainly on cam and off cam can be sort of something that is not the easiest. And I guess sort of this is a slightly different conversation we're having today, is sort of about our health and about what that is, and how we can sort of best manage that and what people have to deal with. And yeah, I suppose, it's not something I've really delved into before, but you sort of did bring that up, and I thought, well, yeah, it'd be something to sort of me learn a bit about, and sort of open my eyes to a bit as well, because I'm here to teach and how to be taught as well. So just sort of take it away a bit. Yeah.
So mental health is very real when it comes to streaming, because especially when I started noticing that when I had to up my socials game to get growth, it was taking a lot of toll on my mental health. And you have to really be careful with trying to find a healthy balance, otherwise you're going to suffer from burnout. And when burnout hits you, you can have a toll that will negatively impact you a massive amount. So for instance, you could burn out and not stream for a whole month. You could take like a month hiatus, and then you could be knocked back. So you really want to try and avoid that burnout. That's one of the biggest things you want to try and avoid. So making sure that you can maintain it to a healthy level is so important. Obviously, like when I started off, I was trying to upload 4 to 6 TikToks a day, try and post on Twitter every single day, posting on Hover, posting in 30 Facebook groups every single day. And it's very difficult, especially like whilst working full time, also streaming, doing artwork on the side, and also having like a social life and stuff like that. It's very difficult to try and juggle. So trying to figure out a healthy level of, I always say like a 2-to-1 ratio is always really good. So when, for instance, if you were to stream for like 10 hours a week, you want to be focusing on content and social media for 20 hours. If you are feeling like you're burning out, you need to reduce the amount of time you're streaming, because obviously Twitch has got naff discoverability. So what you want to be doing is realistically trying to look at ways that you can kind of shorten out your stream and optimize your social media, the time that you spend doing your social media, and try and keep it to a 2-to-1 ratio so it doesn't take too much of an impact on your mental health, because otherwise it can get very hard, very, very difficult very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, some input from sort of my perspective a little bit. I did YouTube for years, and that's sort of where I came from, and I noticed that I just, whether it was burnout or just a lost interest, was editing videos and all that sort of stuff is just, it's very hard. Like, and also, and I guess, sort of easing myself into the whole streaming game and wanting to, sort of find another outlet still doesn't mean that, it's not easy, even though I sort of came in the impression that, you've got the instant interactivity and you've got the, that sort of that company and that sort of live audience is really great, but it's still like wanting to actually have that time and that commitment is really important.
Definitely. It can be very difficult, because like some days when I was actually trying to focus on social media like so much, some days when I was working, I would be spending 8 hours working, then I would be doing a 4-hour stream, and then I would be doing another 4 hours after that, and I wouldn't be going to bed until like 3 a.m. in the morning, and then getting up at like 8 a.m. in the morning, so I'd have like 5 hours sleep, and it was just not healthy. So it's just very much trying to minimize what you can do. But the thing is obviously you will see growth naturally on Twitch, but it will be massively slowed down if you don't utilize your other platforms. And that's where when I started getting back to streaming and I was like, okay, I'm actually going to really do something about it. That's why I kind of like flood the gates when it came to social media, just spamming it everywhere I could, with, insightful posts, advice, stuff that people will engage with and find interesting and useful. And, there's actual value to it, rather than just doing like another going live post, just saying live, come join, playing ABCD. There's not actually any value to those sort of posts. You want to make it engaging. You want to make it relatable. You want to either give them some advice or make them relatable and, try and create a friendship from that. And me discovering that was one of the best things that helped with my growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I sort of had to sort of look at ways to change things up too, because I guess, I was doing the same thing, with just going, oh, yep, here I am, come say hi, sort of thing. And like, I started doing a small video when I've gone live, or, as you said, sort of, offering some insightful conversation when they come in, say, oh, we're making an announcement today, or, if you want to join the lobby, get in here now, sort of thing. Just sort of like some ways of bringing people in, because it's like, oh, if you're saying hi, yep, this is where I am, sort of thing. It's like, yeah, as you said, it can be a little bit robotic, and it's not the same engagement, and I've definitely enjoyed your Facebook posts with offering the advice and saying, oh, what can you do and how can I help, sort of, and that's a really good way of looking at it. And I think that's how I found you, actually, was through Facebook. I believe a long time ago. Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Small world.
Yeah, it is a very small world. Yeah, because I guess I started my group on there, and that sort of, I've had that for about 4 or 5 years now, and I sort of finding that spending time away from it, and looking at other platforms has been probably better than that, on the whole, sort of over the last 6 months or so. And it's so, it's hard. I mean, like, as you're saying, posting to 100 different places and, keeping up with conversation and actually creating those meaningful engagements with communities is, there's just some servers you have to mute because you do.
There are some. Well, I have app mentions on. You have the app mentions on, but you have to turn the at everyone's and the at here's off. You have to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to be that heartless person. It's just otherwise your phone is just going to blow up with notifications.
Absolutely, 100%. Did you want to turn to sort of your side of the conversation with what aspects of being on media and being who you are as a person and stuff, has a bit of a side that's sort of not so pleasant, and that sort of aspect of things. Is that something you're wanting to discuss?
I guess. Yeah, more than happy to discuss it.
Yeah. I don't know where this is going to go or how this is going to be, but hey, look, here to listen. Absolutely.
But primarily, I've dealt with hate ever since I started streaming. I've been dealing with hate, and you don't get too much at the moment. Like, realistically, as you grow bigger, you will get more hate just because it scales. It scales naturally like that. But even as a small person, small streamer, you will still get hate from time to time, and there will be people that will insult you on Facebook, and it's primarily all on Facebook and all on TikTok that is just full of hate. TikTok is incredibly terrible because people can just get away with everything on there, and I feel that because you don't actually you can have your account completely private on there. You can hide behind a message and then be done with it. You're not caught out or anything like that. Yeah. And TikTok are pretty terrible when it comes to reporting someone. They never actually action it 9 out of 10 times. Like, there's open posts with racism, homophobia and stuff like that, and you report it and it gets dismissed. Yeah. And it's an absolute joke. So unfortunately, I feel like TikTok is a really bad place for it, and I get a lot of hate on there. I get all sorts of insults, but it's primarily people commenting on my appearance, commenting on, how big my nose is, or how my hair looks, or I have too small lips, or I have bug-looking eyes, or whatever it is. These are all been things that have been picked on, by the way, on TikTok as well. Yeah. So it's primarily that. But then on Facebook, it's more the case of, I've had it easy because I'm female, and that, I've just been able to click my fingers, essentially, and have a community. And I try very, very hard to show restraint on, not just going, well, how dare you? Yeah. But it is very true, because I've worked very hard for where I am now. I've worked so hard, and I that's just me being purely honest. And, for someone to disregard that, just saying that, oh, I'm female, just disregarding all my hard work, is very offending to me. Yeah. So, absolutely. I'm really appreciative of people that, especially in my community, they can see behind the scenes everything that's going on. Like, they see all of the content that I'm making. I'll message people in the community saying, this is what I'm doing for today and stuff like that, so they can all see what's going on. But someone that's never interacted with me before comes in and says, oh, you've had it easy, trash, go away, get off the platform, go elsewhere. It's just really degrading. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's difficult.
It is. And it's, having the people who are actually genuinely willing to support you is, I think, having that solid base, is probably the most important thing. Like, yeah, because if you can have that, then, being able to, have people being able to deal with the stuff that's, not so good. You've got the people that legitimately know who you are as a person and wanting to support that and help you with that grind. Because obviously having great moderators as well is also a good thing. But you don't wish for them to do their job. They shouldn't have a job in essence. But
yeah,
if you can sort of minimize how you show that you're dealing with this sort of stuff, it just makes it all the worthwhile. And because you've got that sort of that group that the regulars, the people who keep coming back, and the support is just is definitely sort of struggling for words here a little bit, but wanting makes it worthwhile. And that's
of course,
for sure. And I guess in terms of those people that are there just to cause trouble, they just sound like they haven't progressed much past primary school, really. Because I know,
one of the biggest things though that I noticed was when I started off as a streamer, and you'll probably see it on social media now, and I'm actually planning to make a post on it as well, because I actually discussed it a few days ago with someone from the community, to not be afraid to ban someone if they overstep boundaries.
Yep.
If they have a sub badge, if they're a founder in your channel, if they have followed you since day one, it is not a free pass for them to be offensive, derogatory, homophobic, racist, sexist, whatever it is. It does not give them a free pass because they've got special benefits because they've been a supporter for longer. And obviously, if you're growing as a creator, obviously I understand that you don't want to lose that regular, but you will lose more potential viewers if you have a toxic person in your community scaring away new potential viewers. You will lose way more than losing that one. I've had an issue with that myself. One of a previous community members, obviously I'm not going to mention anybody, but a very close community member, which we had that same situation, and it ended up that we had to remove them from the community. And it was the best thing that we did. It was the best thing that we did. And I think that they've, matured. I've kind of kept a watchful eye on like social and stuff like that, and they seem like they're doing a lot better, and I think it was just for the best. But unfortunately, sometimes you do just have to kind of remove that negativity and that toxicity from it. So just don't be afraid to do that. Even if you do take a hit with averages and stuff like that, just don't be afraid, because it will hurt more if you don't. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and it's a shame, because you'd think that because they've been there, they've been able to generate that support and things like that. You'd think that why would they go out their way to be any different? But I guess when you've got new people come in and they're sort of generating support and wanting to engage with you, within a game or within chat, a lot more regularly, it's just people it just must flick a switch. And that's really unfortunate, and you wouldn't think you'd have to account for that, and but as you said, just if it's there and people come to you and say, look, this is an issue, then you just gotta. It's easier to get rid of it. Just easier to get rid of it. Yeah. Solemn notes and deep, meaningful conversations. It's one of those things.
Definitely, very insightful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I guess looking at them, I sort of made a wee question mark there to someone I look up to in the tech industry as a woman, and the CEO of AMD. She's been, someone that you would have thought would have got a lot of hate for being where she is and what she's done and what she's been able to achieve. But I think even the most adamant, the most of AMD fan people who just die hard for the brand and stuff, you'd think, would be in a crowd of like, oh, she's a woman, she can't do her job, blah, blah, blah. But no, she's had a very prestigious background and a lot of support, probably more support, I think, since she's been there. Than not, and you got to give credit where credit's due, no matter who you are. And I remember talking about that too, just in the note, a Darman video actually from a while back. I don't know if you're familiar with who that is, but my partner's absolutely obsessed. And saying that, look, you're not a gamer girl, you're just a gamer, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you do. You're part of the community, and that's just what, if that's what you want to participate in, that's what you want to participate in, and I think that's important. Yeah,
definitely.
All right, okay. Are you prepared to, I suppose, listen? I guess that's. We sort of talked about communities, big practices for communities being within one. What we could do better. We sort of talked about that a little bit, didn't we? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, what's first on our list? Oh yeah, something that I didn't think I'd be obsessed with, but actually I kind of want one. The Steamdeck. Have you heard anything about it?
Steamdeck or the Steamdeck? Did you say
the Steamdeck? Yes, the Steamdeck.
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard my fair share about it. I haven't personally looked into it too much myself, but I know that my partner's got his eyes on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was quite impressed at how big the screen is. I was just the actual device itself. I didn't expect it to be quite so big. I was expecting it to be kind of a Switch sort of size.
Yeah.
So I was quite perplexed when I saw a comparison on it on social. I saw it on Twitter. Like there's a channel on there that does comparisons against every other device.
Yeah.
And the Steam Deck, and it's just ridiculous how big it is. Huge.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is probably thickness. It's quite a chonky boy. Because of the cooling required for this particular the AMD system that's running inside it. Obviously, it's 15 watts. That's about 3 or 4 times more than your cell phone, and that can require a fair bit of cooling in terms of power requirements. But yes, it does have a. What size screen do we have here? It does say. 7-inch. Oh yeah, okay, it's a 7-inch 1280 by 800, which people will probably complain about. It's not particularly high resolution because it's not much more than the Switch, and I think people were expecting the Switch Pro to have like a 1080p or 4K display when they announced the Switch Pro, but it's not really the Pro, it's more the OLED version. And I guess you've got to account the price, which in comparison to like these other Chinese sort of the One X or the A and Neo, which has been around a while, it's about a third to half the cost. And you'd think with what this comes with, obviously it doesn't come with Windows 10, but they've done a lot of improvements with the SteamOS, which they've finally actually worked out properly. And it does actually look like it's going to be a lot more powerful than the competition as well. So they've ran benchmarks, and it does look, it does look really. You can run games on it. It's obviously not as high quality as what you get on a desktop, but for a portable system that you can have some AI upscaling to 1080p to increase the quality a bit more, and then downscale it to the regular resolution. It's an impressive feat. I think they've actually nailed it. I actually think they're going to nail it.
I think it's got a lot of potential. I think
Absolutely.
It'd be really good, kind of like dungeon crawlers and kind of top-down sort of games.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they're probably the best sort of potential. Like, for instance, Hades, for instance, I think that would be perfect for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect for that sort of device.
Yeah, and I think also with possibly, if you want to run, if you want to do Steam in-home streaming, I don't know if you've heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could run that to it as well, so you can even play more demanding games if you're at home and if you don't want to be on your desktop. I honestly think it could replace a lot of devices. And as I said, with the price and what it's going up against, even future things that are coming out, obviously having upgradable storage, having Thunderbolt USB 4 I think it's got, so you can dock it to a big display if you want as well.
Okay.
It's just I remember when I saw it, I thought, SteamOS. I remember SteamOS being hot garbage for a long time because they didn't have a lot of developer support with their the API to translate DirectX into what Linux uses, Vulkan and OpenGL and stuff back then. But when they originally released the Steam machines, which were basically just SteamOS on like a regular desktop, it was a failed thing anyway. That was about 5 or 6 years ago now. But now they've actually got, people actually want to buy this. Developers are like, I actually want to run games on Linux properly. we're going to make it work. And with the amount of time they've had to do it, only about 6 months, so sort of set out on the task to actually build it, has been really, really impressive. And it's not going to be cheap. Even though like what is it, 649 for the top end model, US. But remember what you're paying $1,500 for other ones that are just ridiculous, and obviously that's not quite twice the price of a Switch, and it's going to be a lot more powerful than a Switch. So I think
a much bigger library than Switch as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
By a mile.
Yeah, I think they've already confirmed a couple of 100 games from the Steam library that work on it out of the box. And that's obviously going to grow before the launch window, which I think is looking 25th, so it's only about a week away before this comes out. So I'm keen to see actual reviews. I've seen the hardware review, the teardowns and all that sort of stuff, and it looks really promising. But seeing what games look like and what the expectations are and whether they're met is a whole other story. But with the power of that system, I'd say you're looking good. You're looking good, actually, with what that's going to do. So, yeah. Any sort of final closing thoughts on that before we get going? Are you going to get one? Have you sort of keep an eye on that at all?
It's in the hindsight. It's in the corner of my eyes. It's in the corner of my eyes. It's just quite an expensive price point. I mean, I don't necessarily know how much it is because I think it's obviously with UK pricing. We have a look what the pricing is here. But obviously, I like that my computer's suggesting Streamdeck, not Steamdeck. It knows me well.
Yes,
it knows me well.
Yes.
Let me have a look at prices if it's possible. Yeah, so for instance, the 512 gig is £569.
Okay.
Does it have SD slots so you can expand storage?
You can buy an M.2 NVMe SSD for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
actually plug an SSD. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a 2230, so it's an odd form factor. So it's not one you just plug into your regular computer. I don't think.
Okay.
It does say. I'll double check that. It doesn't say. I would think it'd be a 2230, which is quite a small drive, but I'd say they're going to become more common eventually. But yeah, so you can buy the base 64 gig, which just has the 64 gig, sort of almost like an SD card soldered onto the motherboard, and then you can also add an NVMe to those as well. So even if you buy the cheaper one, you can go out and buy a drive and plug it in, and it's all user replaceable stuff. They actually don't care if you tear it down, to be honest. I think they even still bloody honour their warranty, which is pretty cool. But if you buy the 512 gig version, then that obviously comes with the drive installed. So, I mean, 512 gig isn't a huge library, I guess, but as those drives come down in price and the capacity of them grows up, because obviously it's a lot smaller of a form factor than the 2280 ones, then they should get cheaper, and maybe it might be better off in the long run to buy the cheaper model and then buy like a small, like a 128 gig or 256 gig drive for the meantime, and then update to like 1 or 2 terabytes in the future. But yeah,
that's what I did.
Yeah,
that's what I did with technology when it came to when I had my Xbox. I originally had like a 500 gig, then I up to a terabyte, and now I'm on a 2 terabyte.
Yeah,
there's just gradual upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, as games get bigger as well, and you're sort of wanting to sort of future-proof yourself a little bit, it certainly does make a bit of sense. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that was good chat. Good chat about Steamdeck. Now something a little bit more nerdy. I'm happy to take that away. I mean, Nvidia. It's a brief thing. It's sort of something that's a bit of a rumour mill type stuff, because I like to talk about future stuff because it's just exciting. But I mean, video cards can be accused of having a bit of a tinfoil hat, and I think they've been banned for a number of Facebook groups for being a bit like Wikipedia and not being actual factual information. But I don't care. It's information. It's out there in the public. and that's sort of it's just exciting to see what this looks like. But yeah, Hopper is going to be the next generation after what's the current generation? Ampere? No, not Ampere. Nope. Oh my god, I'm losing my mind a little bit here. Anyway, this is what's probably going to come out next year, I would suspect. It's going to be the high-end compute version, so it's going to be plugged into your server and stuff. I know not a lot of people think that's relevant because it's not going to be something you can buy off the shelf. I mean, if you want to give Nvidia like $10,000 or $20,000, I'll probably give you one. Not that it's going to be any use to you. But this will eventually trickle down to the consumer. They do, they don't make two architectures anymore. They used to, but they basically, whatever tech's going to be in the highest end and the latest and greatest does scale down normally to things that you can buy off the shelf. And whether they're available and what price they are, obviously that's not something that they're going to... it is Ampere. Yeah, it is Ampere. God, what am I on about? Okay, so yeah, so this is possibly going to be the last single GPU that Nvidia is going to make, perhaps. Because as you can see in these pictures, where am I on that? Yep. Intel is going to do a split die. AMD has already got a split die with their high-end compute stuff. They've got Fabric that can basically just connects them together, and so they can sort of be seen as one chip. It's just basically to make it cheaper to produce, but also means you can cram more in as well, because if you're sort of focusing on optimizing a smaller area and you want to just glue, quote unquote, them together, then they can be a little bit more efficient. Yeah, AMD was accused of gluing things together, but Intel's glued things together as well, so they can't really talk. But it's looking like it's going to have 140 billion transistors in this one. It's looking like you're going to be about 1,000 millimeters squared as well, so it's going to be probably about that big, the chip that's in that particular system, which is probably near the limit of physical capacity out of these wafers, because the wafers that you make these out of are a certain size, and if you don't want to make them too big so they've got too many defects in them, so you can launch them as a full product when they come out of the factory. But it's looking like it's going to be 1,000 watts. That's ridiculous. 1,000 watts of power for that.
Good lord.
But it is on a server, but you're not going to be running this in your desktop PC.
Yeah.
It's on it's going to be of a particular form factor that you can't even plug into your system. But it's going to be 5 nanometer, which is obviously would make sense for next gen products, because the smaller the better and the more you can fit in. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that Nvidia is still going to make one single chip. You'd think that if everyone else is obviously going to do it, Intel's even with the next gen architecture is going to have a couple of big ones. AMD's already got a couple of big ones, and it's like you'd think they would want to switch out, to that sort of design and take a little bit of time to optimize it. Would make sense in terms of the shortage of products and how much it costs to go to a new node is just billions of dollars, as it is, and you'd think that trying to make as much money as you can would be better, but it's going to be a beast. it's like
really unnecessary.
But
it would be a beast.
I mean, it is unnecessary, but you'd think with like Google and Facebook and Amazon doing, their data centers are the sizes of warehouses essentially, and you'd want to
be future-proof.
Well, yeah, but you're gaming on a server GPU. You can do it. You can fall Windows into doing it. And as I said, if you gave Nvidia like $10,000 or $20,000, I'd probably give you one. They don't care who they sell to too much, I'd imagine. But you'd have to contact them directly and probably go up the chain a fair bit, because it'd be like, what are you going to do with one of these things? Why exactly do you want one? And it's because they'd be a bit concerned, I'd imagine. But your HBM2E, which I was surprised it's not HBM3. HBM is really cool. I'll do a little bit of quick talk on that before we go. But basically, it's memory on the die, as you can see on these. I'll zoom in on these pictures here too, so you can kind of get a little bit more of a context. But those wee squares on outside the chips are actually, that's the memory for the chip. Because normally you'd see on the chip, like around the chip would be the memory, like you see on that Steamdeck. I'll just do like a GTX 1080 PCB, and then you'll get to know what I'm on about here. There we go. I'll bring that back into the picture. And then, yeah, so you can see around the dies, all those wee squares, and that's sort of what's the memory is, real high speed, what you'd call video RAM, VRAM, it's on the 1080, it's 10 gig. But on those other ones, it's sort of actually, the closer it is, the better for speed and for latency as well, because obviously it requires energy to move things into memory. And, the further it is away, the more energy it uses to do that. So they can actually have it a lot faster the closer it is. And they actually stack those chips, well, not technically, but figuratively, on top of each other. About 10 or 12 layers of them, all crammed into this one wee package. And they can get the current sort of, as you can see on this particular, go back to Chrome, losing Chrome here. You're looking at about 128 gigs on the AMD one of RAM, and I'd imagine it'd be probably about 5 or 6 terabytes a second of memory bandwidth, which is insane considering most GPUs are about 300 or 400 gigabytes a second. So it's pretty intense, sort of how different it is. But obviously it's more expensive to buy. The memory controllers are a lot more in depth to actually physically wire up within the GPU because of obviously the extra bandwidth it does have. So it's just that sort of ongoing cost that means that HBM probably won't be seen in consumer GPUs, unfortunately. But it is what it is, and that it just excites me. It's just like the greatest, the Halo products. It's just like, oh, I wonder if that's going to come to our shores anytime soon. And unfortunately, probably not. But that's okay. We can deal with that, absolutely.
We can dream.
Yeah, we can dream. Yeah, we can dream. And it'd be nice to, as I said, it'd be nice to hand Nvidia that sort of money to say, hey, I'll grab one of those. Yeah, I'll grab. Yeah, as I said, completely useless, overpowered, and only designed for people who actually need it for like their server computations and things, which is they buy them in bulk. They've got 5 or 6 of them in each sort of rack, and they just sort of blast out bloody AI and predictions like that for the weather and all that sort of stuff. So it's interesting, but not something I don't think we'll see anytime soon. But it's kind of cool to dream, as you say. What? Okay, topic number 3. What's one word here? Oh yeah, right. So this is sort of more general sort of. We've covered the main topics here. The more general sort of open discussion, a little bit more open than the last sort of stuff. More general, not as nerdy topics here. Yeah, did you read about the screen? A little bit, even just a little bit. It's kind of strange, isn't it? That 14-inch ultra wide monitor. What the hell's the point in that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've seen USB monitors, and they are kind of cool to have like a secondary 15-inch monitor plugged into your laptop or whatever if you're on the go. But what are you going to do on that? Are you going to have like the world's smallest gaming setup? I've seen a video about that. It's kind of weird.
I mean, it's portable, but you might as well just play on like a Switch or something at that point. You might as well.
Like, what are you going to? You're going to plug it into your Raspberry Pi, and then it's not even going to run anything anywhere anyway. So it's like, and it's only 60 hertz, so you can't even game on it really anyway. But your 3840 by 1100, that's just 100% RGB. Okay, I mean you can do some photo work on it if you want. And you could probably
ultra-wide Minecraft.
Ultra-wide Minecraft. Oh, that's kind of cool. You can
God.
You can do. I mean, it'd be cool to plug into like your camera and use it as like a monitor for your camera. Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that like a likely use for that sort of thing? It is on Kickstarter, so I don't think it's out in the wild yet.
Maybe it would be one thing that might be potential. The only thing I can really think about it is stuff that's already quite poorly supported is, for instance, like VR, when it comes to viewing VR on like external devices.
Yeah.
So obviously porting it over to like a tablet or something like that is already really abysmal to watch. So maybe something to do with the VR potentially, and you can kind of recast it to another family member, for instance. But that's pretty much, I think, pretty much all it's offering.
I mean, look, they've even got Wii controllers in like one of the promotional pictures with like NBA on it. It's like, what are you going to do with that? Like, play multiplayer
It's
NBA?
tiny.
Oh, terrible. I mean, I like the fact that on the other side they've got those monitoring windows, like your GPU temperature, CPU usage, and RAM, and all that sort of stuff. Because I noticed like a lot of like there's really like the latest trend, I guess, is like having like a wee monitor inside your computer case so you can view it from the outside and see like all your stats on it, so you don't have to have like a window open on your main system to do that. But you can buy screens from like AliExpress for like, I don't know, $100 that does the same thing. And I mean, obviously it needs an HDMI port, so you need to plug it into your main system, but it doesn't even, like if it ran from USB, like actually the whole thing ran from USB, that would be quite good, because that would save an HDMI port on your main system. But no, it doesn't run through, it runs through USB power, but it still requires an HDMI port. It's like, I don't know. it's got a built-in,
It's weird.
It's got a built-in fan. Why? So you need to cool your... Okay, alright, you need to cool your monitor down, apparently. Oh, well. Okay. Strange. Very, very strange. I'm not so sure about that, but I just thought I'd bring up something a bit weird. And that is a bit weird. Something a little bit less techy. But yeah, they call it a 4K monitor. It's not even a 4K monitor. It doesn't even mention 3840 by 2160. It's actually 3840 by 1100, which is just weird. Very, very strange. Okay, something a little bit more techy and a little bit more of a dream, because I know that it's probably never going to eventuate, and it's so kind of sad that it won't. But this is the 6500 XT, which is actually a real product. Not gonna downplay that the what would you call it, hate and distaste for this particular product, but it'd be kind of cool if it came out like this. I mean, that's someone had sort of photoshopped a NVMe Drive with the GPU on it. So it's got your USB connection for your HDMI, it's got the video RAM there behind it, and it's got the wee Molex connector for your floppy drive as part of the power. I think that, I remember seeing that on Twitter, and I thought, man, that's so weird. Like, I didn't realise how small the GPU was, if it was able to fit onto an M.2 drive, but there you go. It's just like, imagine you could just stick that in a laptop, or like if you've got a spare NVMe slot on your desktop and go, oh, I just want to add, my CPU doesn't have a GPU built in, like a lot of AMD stuff does. And you're like, oh, I just want to add a wee chip that would just like do encoding in the background, or if I wanted to place, do something else while I'm playing a game on my main system. That would be kind of main GPU, I should say. That's kind of wicked, actually. But again, I don't think we'll ever see it, because I don't think GPUs over an NVMe protocol does exist. But if it did, that would be the perfect candidate for it. It's just weird, because I never thought I'd see something like that. But because a lot of GPUs are a lot bigger than NVMe drives, right? So I thought that would never happen.
They're huge in comparison, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously you need a cooler, clearly. But that's something that's an afterthought, obviously, at this point, because, as I said, it would just end up being... I wonder if someone will end up doing it. I wonder if they'll try. I reckon someone will try.
There probably will be someone that's already done it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because that would just be weird. Like, you're buying such a small thing and go, this has a power of a 5-year-old GPU. Yeah, no. Oh, look, don't at me about the performance of it, but as I said, the size is really cute, and if they can get it, if you get it going, I'd like to talk to you. There we go. I'm calling you out. So, yeah. No, I just thought that was something just completely out there, and again a bit strange, techie in the same vein of things. But yeah. Moving on. Yeah. Okay. We'll move on from that. Last scheduled sort of link for the day. Yes, this is something I came across again on this tinfoil hatchery website. Oh no, this is not. This is Tom's Hardware. I guess it sort of comes from probably comes from a tinfoil hatchery leaker on Twitter. That's okay. But the next generation, obviously, people are trying to hype up X670 and the Ryzen 6000 series of CPUs that are coming out probably in the third half of this year to compete with Intel 12th Gen. They're thinking about what sort of systems this is going to sort of come out with, and obviously a way in which AMD can save cost is by not creating a new product when there isn't a need for a new product. And so they're thinking with the chipset, which is basically what your CPU communicates with, that controls like your SATA ports, your USB controllers, and like your secondary NVMe drive if you've got one. It normally goes through this Wii processor that communicates directly with the CPU. Obviously it's a lot lower bandwidth, there's a little bit of latency there, so plugging a GPU into a secondary slot on your motherboard, like I've seen people do, and wondering why the performance is like a million times less than what you would expect. That's probably why. But they're looking at the B650 motherboards and saying, well, they're going to make a chipset for that, obviously. Like, what will AMD do instead of making a big X670 chipset, which obviously X570 is basically a scaled down version of what they're using in their server products. That's why they've got a lot of bandwidth and they're quite power hungry and all that sort of thing. And having a small motherboard with the X570 chipset on it was a little bit of a risk, but they did manage to pull it off by having fans on it and using up as little room as they could. But if X670 is going to be bigger again and consume more power again, even though it's going to have two B650 chipsets, quote unquote, again glued together, that's going to consume a lot of power. And it's like, do you think, basically they're asking the question if X670 is going to exist on ITX motherboards, and I am wondering whether that is actually going to be a thing. And I guess if you're going to have something so big, so powerful, hungry, and I would say it's either they're going to put it on the back of the motherboard, which would be strange, but I guess there's a lot of unused real estate on the backs of motherboards, or they're just simply not going to be able to do it, which makes sense, because if you're having such a small motherboard with a lot less slots, a lot less ports and things on it, you don't need those 40 extra lanes of PCI Express that your chipset puts out. It's going to be redundant, right? Like because there's only one PCI Express slot on these ITX motherboards. You can only put in your GPU and a couple of NVMe drives, and that's about it. And you can do that directly from the CPU if you've got everything worked out right, which in the most part they do. So it's like, are they going to have the ultra high end? Because the only other real difference that they do is they lock out certain aspects of overclocking your CPU because of the construction, the spec that they want the boards made to on the ultra high end is a little bit different than the medium end. So you can sort of understand that aspect of things. But yeah, I just didn't think they would actually make a chipset out of two and then glue them together and then say that's the high end one and try to cram that on a small board. I don't think they're going to do it, which would be a shame, because it would sort of end the era of having the real high end motherboards in such a small computer. But I think B650 should be, they're getting a lot better with their construction, and I think you should get away with the majority of what you want to try and achieve on a high mid-end board rather than the cream of the crop. So again, as I said, a little bit of a shame, because traditionally that's what AMD have tried to do, and obviously Intel has done it for as long as they can as well. So end of that period of when that's going to be possible, but maybe in future generations we'll see it. But who knows if desktops are going to be a thing in 5 or 10 years' time anyway, really. But we'll talk about that a little bit later on, I think, because I think that's probably coming up. Yeah, a little bit later. Yeah, okay, so this is more of a general chat. I think we're going to open up the floor a little bit as well, for some general conversation. But we'll still try and keep a little bit on track with our topics and stuff. But if you want to interject some questions or some points of conversation that might help us, understand what you're listening to as well, feel free. So we're going to switch scenes here a little bit. So here we are. So what's your thoughts on 4K? What's your experience? Have you tried to use it? Is it something that you are looking to upgrade to? I guess because it's sort of something I've discussed on the show for about 5 or 6 years now, and sort of hearing people's opinions change, and whether they're still looking at it the same way they had back then. It's certainly an interesting discussion point. So I guess having new people on and wanting to sort of hear what they have to say about these particular aspects of technology and computing, it's something I've always wanted to bring up. So I guess sort of have you used a TV? Do you have any cameras? Have you filmed? Do you edit in that? Do you play games in that? Just sort of that resolution. Is it something that sort of struck you in any particular way?
So we have a 4K TV. We have my partner wants to upgrade to a larger TV. We have a 55-inch 4K TV, and honestly, I will never go back to anything less than it. To be completely honest, I've just become so adjusted to it. It's lovely to look at, the models that do 8K, but there's just no content that supports it. That's just completely pointless at the moment. There's barely any content that would even, I don't think there is anything that even really supports it.
No.
So it's just kind of pointless. But we use 4K, and when I'm not on the PC, because the monitor that we use is 1440p, that's the monitor I game on. That's the primary one that we have. And the one when I'm playing Xbox, so I'm not on my PC, that's a 4K monitor.
Okay.
I do like it, but unfortunately, because my Xbox is quite dated, I don't really get to enjoy the full usage of it. If I had a Series X, it'd probably be a bit different. But I have an Xbox One X that's a good 4 or 5 years old now, so it's a bit of a steaming pile of garbage.
It is what it is. Yeah.
But definitely, I absolutely love 4K, and I really wouldn't want to go back. 1440 is what I have on the PC, and I would never go anything lower than that. I don't know if it's necessary for PC gaming. I feel like it's just a large price point, because obviously the price bracket just jumps up massively if you're planning to get monitors that would support that. It's just going to be such a huge price jump. So I feel like it's not necessary if you are going to be solely computing, but maybe for television, kind of general, just pure watching rather than, actually interacting with it constantly. I think that you definitely need 4K, and I don't think I'll ever go back to without it for TV, especially.
I guess I definitely look at TVs and go, that would be really nice, but I sort of generally have a lot of computers plugged into the TVs. We don't have any smart TVs at our house, and so that's sort of how we watch our online content, is through old computers I've sort of bodged together just to have that going, and having something that would run true 4K, like if you wanted to game at 4K on your TV, even like a 3090 is, like, for the latest and greatest stuff, is still a push. And I guess if you're wanting to game, and sort of stream at 4K, because you can stream at 4K on YouTube, you'd require you'd guaranteed to need 2 PCs to do that.
You'd need a streaming and a gaming PC without a doubt.
And it's like,
it's just not going to be doable.
No, because the 4K monitors have been around for a long time, and I know back then, when you could do it, multi GPUs were required. You had to use 2 graphics cards to do it, and even then you were barely pushing 60 FPS maximum. You weren't even like Battlefield 4 and bloody They get GTA 5 and all that sort of stuff back then, when even the well optimized stuff was still at the bleeding edge, and I think it's still become. I think a lot of people are probably upgrading now a bit more, but it's still like you need the highest, the latest and greatest hardware to run it, and I think it's still a while off for being a standard for PC people. I mean, in terms of TVs and playing consoles and stuff like that, they sort of fudge it a bit more in terms of being true 4K, and it's sort of hard to, it's like, when you're sitting that far away from it, it's hard to tell, the real, intrinsic details of what's going on, because if you're sitting right up close to your monitor, you can sort of see everything that's going on, and that's when you need the quality over the frame rate in a lot of instances. But yeah, I mean, I have a 4K camera as well, and that's sort of like, I don't like the 4K quality. I think it's actually a little bit worse than what I run at 1080p when I'm filming and things like that. So I tried to upload a 4K video, and that works, and my system is perfectly happy to edit 4K stuff, but it's a bit of a push and takes up a lot of room and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I don't know, I think if you're a photographer or like a major productivity person, as I said, or if you're on a gaming on a TV, and then I think it's progressing towards that point a lot faster than sort of probably what I'd anticipated actually. But if you're on the PC, there's not a lot of use case, even still, as I said, 5 or 6 years on from when I sort of first started asking people that question, because even though there's a lot more product availability, and the plug and play aspect of it is a lot better than it was, I don't feel it's quite there. It's not quite ready, and with how demanding games are getting and hardware not quite keeping up now than what it used to, it's just going to get worse, I think. And maybe
I can kind of understand it with like YouTube, obviously with the content capabilities of 4K. But realistically, though, the amount of videos that I watch, I don't watch any in 4K. The ones that do support it, I just put it up to, what is it, 2160? Is it 2160?
That's 4K.
I guess.
That's 4K.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Not the one below, 1440
1440, yeah. That's 1440.
1440, yeah. I just usually put it on 1440 because the issue is 9 out of 10 times with my internet as well, it's going to be a nightmare trying to buffer it. And it's the same with like Twitch, for instance. If you're trying to stream on a higher resolution, it's going to be a nightmare. And if you're not partnered, you're not guaranteed to have the option for viewers to lower the ability to watch it. So they can't put it down to like 480p or something like that.
I'm going to hide in a bush.
I see you.
No,
it's not recommended.
No.
If you're an affiliate, realistically, it's not recommended to do 1080. Like you can do 936 is good, 936 or 720. 720 and 60 frames is realistically what most people like. Most of the big streamers that just don't have amazing internet stream at 720 60. That's what the primary amount is. But yeah, I think it's still very irrelevant to try and push 4K content on other platforms at the moment, unless you're literally physically just watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like with what Twitch is going on in the background, and if you've noticed on your latest edition on OBS, they've got this thing called the AV1 encoder. I think that's going to be the secret sauce for when they do eventually upgrade to 4K streaming. Because the compression and is a lot more efficient than running H.264 even on your CPU. You can get away with running the same bandwidth with a lot more quality, and I think, but unfortunately it's going to lock a lot of people out, because the only way to encode AV1 is either very intensive on the CPU or running the latest and greatest graphics cards. So if I think they're going to have to wait a while for the popularity of the current gen GPUs to be more widely adopted before they do it. I think, because otherwise you're just you're going to be in the very premium part of Twitch, and I think that's Whether they do it, I don't know, but that's going to be a bit sad if that's something that they're wanting to release sooner rather than later, I guess. But
yeah,
it's exciting to see that, because I sort of watched a video on it, and I thought you can certainly tell that it's going to be a thing very, very shortly, I would imagine. Yeah. Okay. Next wee point here. Let's go back to Word. Desktop systems. Yeah. How do you think they're going to stick around? Do you think that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for the general audience.
I think it's still going to be. The thing is, fortunately, with the current day and age that we are, a lot of us don't like change. I mean, look at us with like the whole COVID situation. We do not like change. So with that kind of dying off, I feel like everyone's going to really struggle with adjusting. Obviously, we're growing up as a more technological age. Like, obviously, the younger generation, we're more technical friendly. But it's still, I feel that a lot of people are already going to be so adjusted to it, they're not going to want anything different.
Okay. Because it's just sort of... Because I guess what my thoughts are about that, and I think there is going to be a date on it. Because they're going to go back to... They're going to move forward with integrating everything. And if they get to the point where they find it cheaper to produce things that are, they're not, you can't physically put things on it or in it, then they're just going to want to, there's no point having a large device at that point. Like, there's not really any reason to do that. And I know that I hate laptops, and I think that's a fair indication that we're not there yet with integrating everything, because obviously that's all on one board, the whole 9 yards. And I thought, you'd think after 20 or 30 years of making laptops, they would have got them sorted, but they don't. My friend recently got ripped off, and he bought like a really good one, and it's like they just don't work. So
yeah.
I'd say 5 years, maybe 10, before we sort of start seeing,
It'll be a long time. I think it'll be a long time.
You think it'll be a long time? Yeah? I think
at least 10 years. I had a PC. I bought a gaming PC a few years back, and it sent me back like $2,000. And I only had a 3-month warranty on it. And it was custom built.
Oh no, your desktop.
Yeah,
Sorry.
for a laptop.
Oh, laptop, yeah.
Sorry, laptop.
Yeah.
And it went into BSOD mode literally within 4 months. Ooh. Permanently.
Ooh.
Took it to loads of places, nothing, and it was a month after its guarantee, and it was built brand new straight off the bat. Ooh. So yeah, and I spent like probably £1,600 on that, so that's probably like $2,200 probably $2,200, and I got 4 months of it before I had BSOD happen, so that was fun. And no PC shops. We tried getting all the data off everything. It was a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. So, no thank you.
So I got Night Fox saying moving to VR standalone as the future is an option. Yeah, I think that certainly, like having a more powerful, what was the the Valve, it was like, the wireless VR system that was kind of like, it was cheap, really, really cheap. But it didn't do so well. But I think once they increased the performance of that certainly... monitors aren't... I think the interface between us and monitors is probably dwindling, and I think having a more interactive environment certainly is. And hello, Chloe, you're in chat. Good, hello there. Welcome in. And they spent $2,500 on a gaming laptop, and it's still going strong. Wow, can't play any new games. Yeah, that's the thing. You can't upgrade them. You just can't upgrade them. That's the issue. And, my laptop from about 10 years ago is still working just after everything I've done to it. It is still going. But, yeah, exactly. You can still use them, and they're still like right for basic productivity. But, yeah, the thing is you can't slot things in and out of them. And you used to be able to. I know we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, and I am aware of time. But yeah, you used to be able to slip in GPUs. You used to be able to upgrade your CPUs in your laptop. Your RAM and your storage was obviously, you still can upgrade that to an extent. But yeah, the issue is laptops were a lot more upgradable. Obviously, it was expensive, and difficult, and obviously you have to rely on support for the manufacturer to say, yes, I can support this new thing that's going to be putting in it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that you can literally just slot out your GPU and your CPU to in your laptop. But yeah, I think they, once they're sussed, laptops are actually in a working condition, and you can leave them, you can sort of use them as much as you can for a good long time. You may start to see, desktops maybe dwindling a little bit more than they are now, but it's still as you said, still a fairly long way away. But I think they're trying. I think that's the main thing, and maybe not
the
hard
effort's
enough.
there.
The effort is there. Maybe it's not hard enough, and that's obviously why you still spend $2,000 on a laptop and it's dead.
Please don't.
No, it's just sad. You'd think this is in 20 or 30 years of making laptops.
Oh,
You'd think
it was just.
You'd think they'd have them working, but they don't. They don't work.
Yeah. Ended up having to sell it for spares and repairs for like £200. It was very, very sad.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, that was fun.
That's why I just invested custom desktop, looking forward to upgrading. Absolutely. And I mean, the amount of time between upgrades and the amount of stuff you have to upgrade at a time is becoming more and more, unfortunately. So don't get too content with saying, oh, I'm happy playing this at 60 FPS now, but in 6 months to a year's time, you'd be like, I'm only running at 30. And it's so you sort of have to set your sights on where you want to be, because especially with availability of stuff now too, and possibly into the future, you may not be able to get stuff when you want it as well, because you say, oh, I'm going to upgrade in 2 years or 6 months or whatever. It may not be around, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just have to settle for 30 FPS then. It's like, oh, well, yeah, it's kind of, it's a bit of a difficult time to be building systems. And I know myself, I was going to sell bits that I have now to upgrade to the what's currently available, and I just thought, no, I have to settle. And I've been happy with what I have, but it's just like, it would have been nice just to have a little bit more. Yeah, but
I feel that.
Yeah, but it's money and availability is just out the window, and I thought it's just not worth spending twice as much for maybe 30 or 40% more performance. It's just like the cost isn't viable.
It's just so difficult trying to get hold of bits.
Yeah.
Like when we got because we have a 3070 of the PC that I stream on.
Yeah.
And we originally had a 1660.
Yep.
1660, I want to say.
Yep.
Possibly. I think it was 1660 or 1650. I can't remember which one. And I had notifications on for a Discord that would ping me whenever there was availability, and it pinged me at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I woke up at the crack of dawn. Got it. And managed to get it after, luckily it was only 2 weeks of having notifications on every single day. There would be 6 a day, so I'd have 6 a day, and I was always too slow on it. We managed to secure it for £650, so it was probably about £200 over original price.
That's not bad though. That's not
horrendous,
no.
And it wasn't scalper prices.
No.
Obviously the prices were a bit inflated on the website, but they do what they got to do.
Exactly.
But
no,
it's just fun trying to get hold of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's nice as a future put together. Flexibility is pawning. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and unfortunately, when you go lower and lower in the cost spectrum when you're building a system as well, the amount of flexibility and upgrade options you have is smaller as well. So it's good to spend a little bit more so you have the ability to swap things out, and you don't have to swap as much out when you do want to upgrade. And I think that's certainly important. Thrill of the chase, absolutely, yeah, for sure, yeah. It's exciting getting new stuff, and especially it's like this is what I want, and I've got it, and it's like yes, it's just going to work. It's like that's important for sure. It's a pain, and I think that's why I sort of haven't been building systems myself. A lot of people have just put off upgrading or building systems from scratch because it's just too much of an ask. And we're waiting to see what next generation brings out and go from there. I would imagine that's what I'd recommend them doing. But yeah, I mean, it's coming down now, and I think availability is coming in too, because the mining's crashed, and I think people are selling off stuff, or people aren't buying as much of the stuff that they would normally be using for it. So that sort of helped things, but it's still not there for sure. The third topic on our discussion points list, something I suppose you can talk a bit about as well. And we are definitely, if you've got any questions in chat, feel free to interrupt us, because this is sort of coming to the end of our discussion, and want to hear from people who are sticking around and all that sort of stuff. But I guess games. What have you been doing? What have you been looking for? What are you looking at? What have you been avoiding playing? What don't you like? Just the whole, just open up the picture and take me on a bit of a story.
So I come from an FPS background.
Okay.
I've always played, whether it's COD or Apex or Fortnite or even PUBG, which, yes, PUBG, I've been back on it as of recent. It's still sadly quite entertaining. However, it's pretty shocking on Xbox. And it has no, because I'm not a PC gamer. I'm still a controller gamer.
Sorry,
it has terrible.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. You're back in a tick.
No worries, you're good. I get to cause chaos, chat.
Chipmunk took over. This is Blonde's show now. Okay, we're back. It's Blonde's show. It's all mine. This is my ship. Yes, it is. All right, I'll just hand over. All right, I'll give you the rights to the HDD show. Yeah.
Here, let's switch over the cameras. I'm now the presenter.
Okay. All right. Let's go. All right. And I'll just give you that.
Oh my god! You actually.
Yeah. Let's go. Yeah.
It looks good. It's a good look.
Yeah.
I approve.
Co-host. And
oh my god.
where are we? I have to bring up a bit more.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Beautiful.
Alrighty, there we go. Oh, actually, live scene 3. I'll just switch it around there too. There we go. Co-host and presenter.
Oh my god, amazing.
There we
That's
go.
hilarious.
Yeah.
But
there you go. Yeah, games.
Yeah, I come from an FPS background, so I've always played in the last 5 or 6 years has been primarily all FPS, like COD, Apex, PUBG, Fortnite. I started playing a bit of COD, but I actually come from a Fortnite background. I used to play Fortnite religiously when it first came out. Then I moved from Fortnite onto PUBG. Then I moved on PUBG to Apex. And obviously I've been playing Apex ever since launch and played a lot of it, like a depressing amount of it, I will be honest. Probably I think I've got about 150 to 200 days on there now.
Oh, wow.
Of actual game time. Yeah,
Wow.
like a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot. So I come from that sort of background, so it was interesting, still staying with like PvP type games, because I enjoy PvP. I like the competitiveness.
Yeah.
But I recently switched up to DVD a couple months back, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I think Apex was kind of getting a little bit stagnant for me. It started to grind my gears because I'm a very competitive player. So I used to get really frustrated if I would have like a couple of bad games, and when it gets to that point, I know it's like time to kind of jump ship and find a new game that I'm comfortable playing. Like I don't necessarily take too seriously. So that's why I switched over to DBD. But I'm absolutely loving Lost Ark at the moment as well. Absolutely love it. Which is quite interesting because I didn't like Diablo, and obviously it's a very similar game to Diablo, and I didn't like Diablo at all. Couldn't get on with it. So yeah, Lost Ark is different to me. I know it's obviously everyone says it's similar to it, but to me it's so different because I'm actually enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I also am looking forward to the new Horizon game, which comes out. Oh, it's actually out now.
Midwest.
My partner's purchased it because we have a PlayStation 5 as well.
Okay.
On the 4K TV, we have the PlayStation 5 downstairs. So he'll be playing that. So I'm looking forward to watching that being played this weekend.
Nice.
It's not something I'm not sure I would actually play myself. I was considering playing it, and possibly even doing a cosplay of Aloy, who's the main character in it. But
nice. Yeah.
I was considering it, but I couldn't really warrant purchasing it on both platforms. Couldn't really warrant it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll probably try it out. I'll probably give it a little while, and I'll probably absolutely be hooked in it. So I don't really get on with single player games too much, though. I get a bit bored.
Yep.
So
interesting. Yeah, I used to play actually a lot more FPS games than I do now. I always found the multiplayer aspect of them to be like too above my skill level. And I guess coming into it now and doing some aspects of that now, it's like they do ease you into it a lot better than you used to. Playing Black Ops and Modern Warfare and stuff, the first ones, they were a lot better than you. And it's like, oh, okay, so that just basically turned me on with FPS games and playing multiplayer. I played Gears of War, I played Army of Two all the way through. I think I played a lot of the Gears of War games. And the single player aspect, it was cool having the co-op as well. And I thought that's just that was my jam. That's what I remember in the original Halo games as well. That was just what I used to do. And I guess I did play a fair amount of Battlefield 3 and 4 online. I had a good community of people that I used to participate in that played, and it sort of helped ease the tension of dying every 10 seconds. Because so it's like that was a little bit annoying, but it was just nice having people around you. And I guess for me, I don't take my racing games seriously. Forza a little bit, but Wreckfest I don't. I used to, and I think I got a bit. I had a bit of resentment for people who didn't treat the game the way that I wanted to be treated, because it was sort of there was a lot of payback, a lot of alliance building in that sort of game when you're like, oh, let's just take out this person type of thing. And I thought, I want to win my race, I want to complete my race, but I thought, nah, I don't care if I get destroyed now, because it's just that's just part of the fun. And the guys who I play with, are actually extremely local to me, and I just play with them on a Sunday, and I've been really happy with their community aspect and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, as I said, if you get to the point where you're taking things too seriously and you're just I'm wanting to get really good at it and I'm not doing as well as I could.
That's the issue. That's why I went away from Apex, because I had good stats. I will be honest. For the typical player, I had good stats, and I can't solo queue, because solo queuing I would ruin the stats.
Yeah. So
you would be forced into finding another group and trying to force yourself into that social network where you're trying to find another group that engages and doesn't do dumb moves and stuff like that. And it's just it's very mentally draining. And if you're going to try and treat a game that, especially on stream, where you're trying to play off as in you're enjoying it and you're not getting frustrated, it's going to be really hard, because you're personally not going to enjoy it, and it's going to show. And it's just it got to the point where on Xbox I would have to put my stats, and I'd be like, okay, 20,000 kills, 1,000 wins, 3.5 plus KD, and just really specific stats where I actually have to ask really high demands, which only the top few % of players actually have. And it just makes it so boring because sometimes there are just such horrible people in the community and you just don't want to have to deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah,
it just ruins the experience. So, which is why I like DBD. I can play it and not get too salty over it. Yeah, of course, I get a little bit sassy sometimes if I get, targeted and tunneled and that. But it's natural.
Yeah, it is.
But, even hitting the high ranks and stuff like that, you can't drop out of them once you've hit it, so you can just enjoy it. You can just... You can just take your time slowly and just have fun at that point.
Yeah.
So I just find it a lot more enjoyable.
It is, yeah. I mean, the comparatively small experience I've had with the game, and something I wouldn't normally play. It does seem fun and something again not meant to take too seriously. I think a lot of people do, and that's sort of that's their own prerogative. And it doesn't really come into the game too much. I think when they're like that, but it seems to be a fairly even playing field, and you know what you're going to do. I think my biggest hurdle is just learning the maps, but that's just experience, I guess.
Trust me, learning the perks is a lot harder.
Right, okay.
I've finally gotten there. 2 months in, I'm finally learned what perks are good and bad, and how to discover what people are running. You can actually recognize things now. I'm finally gotten there after 2 months. So that's a grind.
Yeah,
there's just so much. There's so much content when it comes to perks and builds and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, I love co-op multiplayer. There seems to be talk some competitive multiplayer. I mean, I have just started up. Well, I've been going almost over the last 2 months now playing Borderlands on my Friday streams, and that's I play it solo. I don't have anybody to play with, but I would imagine the community of people who play those sorts of games, I would imagine, are in it for the fun rather than, flexing and, going out of their way to destroy your experience, rather than actually just there to help you out. And no, because I've never played the series before. I've never actually touched a lot of those sort of types of games, and that's sort of why I wanted to sort of explore them on stream with people who know more than I do and sort of help me learn and all that sort of stuff. And that's really neat. And I think the DVD community is a bit like that too. So, because they're wanting to help people out, and they sort of come and use cheer streams. Because I've got a real life friend of mine who's sort of on that grind a bit too. And they sort of, you can do this, I can come help you with that. And that's just, I think that's a really neat community to...
Borderlands has got a good community as far as I know, but I used to play Borderlands a lot. I've played all of them. And gone through all the stories, all the DLCs. And luckily, I think at one point it did originally have it where people could just join you. And there was only one loot instance, so obviously you could do all the hard work and then they can come in and pinch your loot.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure that my partner has done that to another person and stolen all of their legendaries. I believe he said that to me once, as a kind of bragging point, that he came in and stole all of this guy's legendaries and then quit the lobby and he ran away with them. But I think they implemented now, so it's all separate loot instances. So other than that, it's just, it's a good story-driven game. It's quite entertaining and I would say chill. It's not chill, it's chaotic, but it's mentally not stressful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's certainly something I've sort of, I think I'm on episode 7 now of going through. I'm playing the pre-sequel, so I'm starting off completely in the wrong direction, but that's okay. It's sort of I'm understanding the lightheartedness and the real funny aspects, about a lot of Australian sort of stuff in there, and it's you feel like you are doing a bit of a story, but at the same time you're learning a bit about how the whole universe works as well, because obviously there's a whole overarching story to it too, which is really neat. So yeah, and I think it's actually been fun. So that's sort of not the type of game I'd regularly play. It's been sitting in my library for a number of years now, and I just haven't even downloaded it until that point. And I thought, give it a go, see what it's like, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought.
Yes.
But I was convinced by a community last night to download the Lost Ark, and again I actually had to get myself off because I thought, no, I've got this podcast to do today, and I honestly I could have spent a lot longer, and that's a testament because again, I don't normally play those types of games. I've never played, Diablo or as you rated out to someone playing Dragon Age, and it's just like I've just never done it. But I can see why you'd want to. It's just so easy to progress, and it's like it kind of gets addicting, and definitely. Yeah, I can see
very Moorish.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Also depends where you region and what kind of players you get. Yeah, I mean that can be true too. I know it was a game I used to play back way in the day, World of Tanks. It was actually the first game I played way back on my desktop, my first desktop, which was about 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit more. And way before actually it was pre-beta, I think it was still alpha, late alpha. And the regions, different regions you got to play in, there were definitely a lot of different types of players, and I guess you got used, you sort of had to get used to their style, and it made that quite difficult actually, because obviously when you're playing with people who are a lot better than you, because their matchmaking system was absolutely rubbish back then. It still is not great now, but like you're like, oh yep, you're playing with someone who's got a tank that's 3 or 4 tiers higher than you.
Oh, lovely. We love to see
good.
it.
Yeah, that's
That's fair. That's fair.
It's like basically like a 2 or 3 shot kill. It's like that's good. That's really good. But yeah, it sort of added to the challenge, and you sort of chucked you in the deep end quite early with that sort of stuff. But it was quite difficult to sort of get used to how people in different regions played, because obviously they had servers in different areas of the world, but like I think it automatically switched you between them depending on what the population was like and stuff. And me being in New Zealand, basically millions of miles away from anywhere, the ping was horrendous. And it made it even more great, because you're playing with people like in Russia. Sorry about the ad, just people about that. Just saw it just finished, but I'm not going to ask you to say no. You don't have to get ads if you don't want them, but that's okay. I'm not about that on the podcast. So anything else? You sort of closing words, I guess, in this about the show. Last sort of questions from people. Anything you want to ask me? I guess I'm an open book. We've got 5 or 10 minutes, whatever you've got, and we can sort of go from there. Really, yeah.
It's been actually quite insightful, actually, because obviously when it comes to technology, I know like the basics when it comes to like with building a PC and stuff like that. But in all honesty, my experience of technology is I have replaced some fans in a PC, and that is as interesting as it's gotten. So it's actually been pretty insightful tonight, having that sort of conversation. I know a lot of technical friends, but I've never really, it's never really come to the point where we've had that sort of topic about, just technical items. So it's kind of cool. And obviously with my partner who works in a technical field, he'll just talk about televisions. So, it's interesting seeing about like PC and actually stuff that, could potentially be a part of my life. Like, for instance, I know that the Steamdeck is definitely on my radar at one point, for instance. And I am saving up to build my own PC at one point as well. So it's definitely been really good.
Yeah, I mean...
So, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for being organised.
Not always, that's for sure.
We sort of this conversation hasn't happened over a very long period of time, and I'm glad that we're able to come together and sort things out with having a mild panic attack about time zones earlier in the week. Because I have had UK people on before, but that was many years ago, and I'm sort of more used to talking to people in the US and sort of where they're at with time and stuff, and it's like, oh, I know you're 13 hours behind, but are you on the same day as me? And it's like, no, you're not. It's like, oh, okay, I have to think about...
We're not British, and because it's obviously winter, we're not British summer time zone at the moment either. So we're on GMT, not BST currently, because obviously the clock's moving forwards and backwards over some period. Yeah. So, that's also thrown a spanner in the mix too.
It was. But no, I'm very glad that your things went well, actually, and we had a good chat, and I'm glad to sort of... The first one for the year. You were going to be 26, as I said earlier, because I had a friend on who was going to come last week, but I had my booster and I was feeling like crap. So that's happening on So next week's one's happening on Sunday, but that's okay. Where can we catch you? And when can we catch you? You can put your links in chat. I've actually turned that off for the stream, so if you want to share, plug yourself at the end of the stream.
Let me grab them really quick.
And
and you called me organised.
Oh no, it's all good. I know a lot of everyone's had to do that so far. So I'm not testing you. It's just part of the process.
I've literally just copied and pasted. Please ignore what it says there about Stream Elements. Sorry about that.
Oh yeah, Stream Elements. Yeah.
But yeah, I stream 3 times a week on Twitch. Tuesdays and Thursdays 7 p.m. GMT, and on Saturdays it is a 1 p.m. start. I usually stream from 3.5 hours to sometimes like 6 or 7 hours at the weekends as well. I try and do like a longer stream. I'm primarily a DVD streamer. I do also do Lost Ark streams. I did a Lost Ark stream today, so it's kind of, throwing a bit of a interesting spanner in the mix, doing something a bit different. But not only about content as well, I like to be known that I'm a very kind of like helpful, approachable person. So if anyone is like looking for streamer tips or any kind of advice in general, let me know. I'm working on building up my TikToks, YouTube and Hover videos on like, creating bot commands, how to make emotes by yourself, how to animate emotes all by yourself without, needing a designer and stuff like that. Because there's possibilities, there's routes that you can go.
Yeah.
So I'm currently working on kind of streamer tips and stuff like that. So if you have any questions or any kind of recommendations, let me know.
Yeah, no, I actually need some help myself because I've broken Stream Elements.
No.
No. So I would like to, because I sort of did a bit of a move away. Hey, Night Fox and Brock with a Beard, thank you very much for the follows. Yes, we are sort of reading chat for the last bit here, so I appreciate that heaps. Yeah, because I was trying to move my alerts away from Streamlabs, and I sort of thought, okay, I'll just sort of upload what I had from Streamlabs to Stream Elements, and I managed to get one working, and I don't understand why the other ones weren't working. So that was not fun, but I'm sure we can discuss that at another point in time. But yeah, no, it's and your artwork's great. I think you'll certainly be getting a purchase from my partner who had affiliate a couple of days ago.
Congrats!
So I think she'll be keen on the Webongo cat.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's and streamer tips and help guides is very, very important, and something even me almost a year in, about 6 weeks away from that now. I still have very little idea. Actually that's hello Alicia, how's it going? Thanks for dropping in for the last little bit here. Appreciate it. I think, so Chippy for partner, absolutely, yes, well deserved. I think you are certainly well on the way to that, and yes, your time and commitment and energy is certainly for that, and
thank you.
well on that road, and as you said, who knows what 2022 can bring. It's
exciting stuff.
Very exciting stuff. You needing to be off, or you got anything else to sort of close off with before we head off, or you? Yep, just that I'm grateful for being invited on the show. It's been a pleasure tonight. Thank you. Yes, no, I mean it's been good, and I think hopefully with finally almost 2 months into the year, getting it going, it'll be good to sort of see where this takes us as well, because who knows? As I said, exciting stuff. I'll be happy to have you again. Absolutely, yeah. At some point, who knows when that will be and how. And
I'll brush up on technology a bit more. I'll be a bit more prepared on that front.
Sounds
good.
Sounds good. No, awesome stuff. Appreciate it heaps, and go well. What is it? You're live tomorrow? Are you?
No, I'm next live on Saturday.
Saturday. Oh, so it'll be Sunday. Morning,
because it's just turned into Friday, so it's Saturday's the next day. Awesome. Saturday afternoon.
Oh well, we can catch you then. I will sign off the stream, and if you need to dip, then dip. Otherwise, I'll say a goodbye out of this here. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching, everybody. You can catch me in approximately 6.5 hours for Borderlands, as I just said before. Saturday I won't be live because I'm actually out with real friends, because I do apparently have a few of those. And yeah, and then obviously Wreckfest on Sunday. So, yes, again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for being here. Always appreciated. And I will look forward to seeing you live again in the coming days. Those are real. Yeah, those are real. Yes, you are real. Yes, you are a person on the screen, but I cannot physically be in your presence at the moment, so I don't know. We can decipher that at the time. But again, thank you very much. Peace out for now, and I'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a good one. All right. I'll stop streaming.